Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Soulful Sips and Spills, the space where we brew up honest, heart led conversations and spill all the juicy, unfiltered truths that help us heal, grow, and remember who the fuck we are beneath the noise. This is a space for healing, growing, and being wildly human. I am your host, Megan Billie, Master Intuitive Psychology Coach, and what I like to say, mystical alchemist. And I'm so excited today because we are joined by the amazing Holly Hannigan-Mills from HM Coaching, who I had the absolute honor of actually meeting in real life at Happy Place, which was so strange because we had actually met through intuitive psychology, and this friendship blossomed between the cohort, and it was it was like a pinch me moment for me because I'd seen you on a screen for so long and only
Yeah.
from like head up. So actually being able to see you in person was like, she's real. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I'm very excited to welcome Holly today. And we are going to be diving into a very not only personal topic for myself, but and something close to my heart, releasing shame and reconnecting back to self. So, Holly, over to you, my darling. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Oh, I'm so good, thank you. I do apologize. I'm a little croaky. I've done a lot of talking over the last week as I was away hosting the retreat in
Yes,
Spain.
I
So,
know. It
so yeah,
looks
sorry.
so amazing. I was just saying to you earlier about like the sunset and
Mm,
sunrise. I was like, oh, I can just see myself there on that mountaintop.
I know that particularly was a highlight for most of the guests. Like when we were doing our
Mm.
closing celebration circle, and I got them to sort of close down their eyes and just connect to at what point during the whole retreat did they feel most connected to themselves. And most of them said either in the sunrise on the top of the
Mm.
mountain was a real one. And then a couple of them said no, the sunset as well was just as powerful.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine both ends of it just being as magical. Like you're like, oh, this one.
Yeah.
Actually, no, this one.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot wait to dive all into that as well. I would love to know more about your retreat flow to freedom because
Mhm.
it wasn't local to your area, was it?
No. No, literally had to get on a plane and go there because I think when we were doing our training, it got to sort of January, start of New Year, and I have used vision boards before, and it's something I'm quite connected to. And I'd always loved the idea of a retreat, but I've never actually, ironically, been on one myself either. But I was just like, do you know what? I really want to just host one, and I want to
Mm.
do it in Spain. And
Oh,
then
yes.
I put it on the vision board, and then as we got further into the sort of coming towards the end of training and qualifying, so how am I going to make this happen? And then I met someone who actually had a venue in France, and I thought, and we were talking, and I thought, okay, this could work. And I went back and saw my vision board again, and I was like, no, it's got to be Spain. I can't explain it. It's my
Yeah.
intuition telling me it's got to be Spain. So, spent some time looking around and found the most amazing retreat venue, which is this beautiful villa, this lovely couple, Pat and Jane from the UK, that have moved over there to now just host retreats in their villa. And they have just created such a beautiful space. And I think you said you saw when you looked around the online sort of tour. It's exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yes.
It feels like your home. It's completely authentic and it's in the mountains. So it's really, there are neighbors around and you can walk to the little village, but it is that secluded space to really connect with yourself and with nature. So yeah, it was just such a special place and it always will be now for me.
Oh, I feel electric as you're speaking there. I've got goosebumps all over because, yeah, I was so like I was just there, like I say, on that mountaintop. And when I'd seen you post about the venue, and I thought, oh, I want to have a look. Like, I want to see where she is. And I realized on their website they had a 3D tour, and I took myself around. And I was like, oh, yes, we're in the celebration circle. Oh, I bet they're having dinner here. Like, oh, and it just, yeah, I can imagine now that's etched across your heart as a
Mm.
really special place, and also for the people that attended your retreat. And I believe you
Mm.
did it with not only a friend, but yoga instructor.
Yeah, so I was really, really lucky in that one of my oldest friends from school, so we've known each other like nearly 30 years.
Wow.
Um,
You're looking
Her,
good, girl. You're looking good. Don't you worry.
it's that Spanish sun. But no, he has been working as a yoga instructor for the last 5 years, since COVID time, actually. And he's just so incredible at it. And I thought, well, I would like to include some somatic work
Mm,
into the retreat, because obviously, as you know, when we're doing that sort of intuition work and really get connecting to bits and energy in the body that we want to move and release,
mm,
somatic work
mhm.
is so important. So I thought, what better than yoga? And why would I pay someone who I don't know, which still could be
Yeah.
great, when I've got this opportunity to work closely with someone who's so
Mm.
close, and we have that special relationship, which was just incredible. And it was something that the guests fed back to us as well, that seeing our friendship really helped them feel trusting and open to connecting with us.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to say, because I know that you've known Steve such a long time and you have that genuine connection there
Mm,
that, yeah, I can imagine like the safety just emitted from you guys. And as you said, pairing somatic work with the inner work is really where the magic happens because we
mm,
can't sit there intellectualizing it and just almost thinking it
yeah.
can be different. We have to move it and start being that.
Yeah, and that's where it was really beautiful, because we our work complemented each other. We hadn't really planned in the detail of the sessions. I just kind of said, these are the techniques I'm going to use throughout the sessions. He said, right, I've created my sort of flow, because obviously it's flow to
Hmm.
freedom. And he went through all the chakras, starting at the root chakra, and each session had a theme around a chakra, and releasing through that. And yeah, the sunrise and sunset were just so powerful. And when the sunrise one, I was able to, when everyone had sort of done most of the movement and then were lying in reflecting, I came in and we sort of literally joined, and then I led a guided meditation to salute the sun, to welcome the new energy for the day and let go and release any negative energy that's still held on from the past. And it was just so wonderful. And then I would sort of step back, and then he continued with the closing down of the yoga session. So yeah, it was really, really magical.
Oh, I was going to say it sounds so magical. And please tell me this is going ahead next year. Are you doing a round
Yes,
two?
we are, because again, the guests within 24 hours, a couple of them were like, "Can we book for next year now? Like, we really want to come back and do this again." And so we penciled in the diary for pretty much, I think it's a day difference, the same dates next year. I think it's going to be the 30th of September to the 4th of October. Um, because we know it works so well now in that venue, and because we now really have a clear sort of understanding of how it works together, it's going to be even more powerful, I think, and even more
Mm.
special. So, what there are some who, like I said, who want to book on now, but again, we're ready for other people who maybe have never experienced it before. Because a lot of people who were on the retreat have done yoga and had experienced
Mhm.
yoga. There were a couple of newbies who'd never done any yoga either. That was kind of me. I tried it a few years ago, but never really got into it. So when they were there, really embracing getting all in with the yoga, I thought I should probably do some too, because
Yeah.
it's not my thing, but I really want to be better into it and like really connect with it. So I did join in on a few sessions, which was quite funny, watching my legs wobble around like jelly, because they're just the core is not there. I don't think the core needs to be developed.
Oh,
Um,
I feel
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, I feel
yeah.
yeah, and you and some people can do it so elegantly, and you feel a bit like Bambi on ice.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, how am I bending? What? Where am I supposed to go with this? But
But
it
I
was,
love
yeah,
it. You threw yourself in and just
yeah.
got immersed, and that I think is like a testament to who you are, even as a character as well as a coach within the space. Because I know firsthand, having experienced coaching even with you throughout our training, but I know above and beyond now the impact your work has. So, yeah, fully throwing yourself in, pat yourself on the back too, because I'm sure there was some up level for you as well, like
Mm.
whilst you were, even though you were delivering sessions alongside Steve, I'm sure you were almost going through your own like de-shedding of skins and things were coming up for you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and it was funny when we were doing the closing celebration circle, one of the guests asked me, and reflected it back to me, what was it like for you, and how have you felt about the retreat and all this sort of stuff? And I was like, oh, okay. And I acknowledged that actually before I was filled with imposter syndrome, feeling like, what am I doing? Like, I've never
Mm.
done this before. Who am I to create this retreat and how to take people on this journey? So that was all there. And even stood at the airport, just feeling like, oh my God, this is it now. I've got to do it. I've got to go with it. I've got to show up every day. And typically, yeah, my throat decided to start giving me grief just before we went. But I was like taking the vitamin C and honey and lemon and all these good things to try and prolong it, hold it off. But
Yes.
on the final full day, it did give up a little bit, and I sounded quite like Phil Mitchell. So that was a good day. I was like, I'm just embracing being Phil Mitchell for the day. It was fine. It's like
I
the
love it.
meditations might not be quite as relaxing, but
I love that.
just
They
close your
might not
eyes.
be quite relaxing with me over here croaking away. No, that is amazing. And it's so, as you said, like from having that imposter syndrome show up of, fuck, I've really got to do this now. I've really got to show up for myself. And although it's scary,
Mm,
I know I can do it. And you were giving yourself the honey and lemon, really nurturing yourself in order for your throat to be open and to
yeah.
express your truth. And yeah, I've got goosebumps again.
Yeah, no, it really was like that. And there was a moment, like sort of halfway through, where I was just so overwhelmed with, I can't believe I've done it, like, and just joy and gratitude, and it'd been such a magical day, and I really I took myself away, and I just did a bit of my own meditation, and I just really reflected on I can't believe I'm here, and how grateful I was that people had come and they were embracing it and they were going with it and trusting us, and the outcome being for everyone some real sort of deep connections to themselves, things. And I loved it because some of the ladies were sort of in their 60s, early 70s nearly, and one of the things they put on their feedback, one of them was, "You're never too old to try something new." And I was like, yes. And because again, they were like, I've not heard of intuitive psychology coaching. What is this? But they
Yeah.
fully lead into it, fully connected with it. And that was just amazing because again, it just shows that anytime you could always embrace change and you can always work on yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. I love that they reflected back to you like you're never too old to start. It's never too late. It's never the
Mm,
wrong time. It might feel like that in the moment, but it's always like a redirection, isn't it? Sometimes it's more like the universe being like, not yet, it's not quite
mm,
ready, or it's not quite how, like you said earlier, being chatting to that person in France, and you were like, I could push through and do it there, but actually, no, the vision isn't France, it's in
mm.
Spain. So,
Yeah,
yeah, just trusting that no matter how old you are, you can begin again. I love
yes,
that.
yeah, yeah. That was really lovely.
Oh, I love that. And can I put my deposit down now, please? Because I want to be there next year when the
But
dates are out. And I will
yeah,
put a link for the listeners in the show notes where they can work with you and find out how to get on Flow to Freedom next year. Because
yes,
what a transformational experience, especially combining the work of intuitive psychology along with that somatic experiencing. I feel like that's a whole body approach, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and it was really, I think, something that we sort of got fed back that there's nothing else out there at the moment that's like that combines those two in such a packaged, beautiful way. It's you can do one or you can do the other, or maybe a day with a few of each, but for a full retreat to immerse you in the
Mm,
two together. And so the day sort of flowed with Steve would do a morning sunrise yoga, then well, we'd have breakfast, and then I would do an intuitive psychology coaching session. Then there'd be some reflective time afterwards, some movement time or spa
mm,
treatment time, whatever you feel you want or
mm.
need. Lunch, then I'd have another coaching session, and then Steve would end the day. So it was real sort of a wraparound approach of both of us bringing in our skills and working in the best way to flow it, as in it's called Flow to Freedom, flow through the whole process.
No, I love that. And you can feel that whole experience. And like, as you
Mm,
said, what you need and what you want. And it was tuning back in to their own innate wisdom within rather than kind of listening to the noise or maybe even looking
mm,
at what other people are doing in the retreat.
yeah,
It was a really almost, yeah, bespoke approach
Mm,
for people. Because as you say, there isn't a lot out there, especially in terms of beautifully fusing those like frameworks and techniques and practices together. That sounds like a really sacred ritual that you've
mm,
created.
yeah, definitely. And I know we did discuss potentially doing some more that could be like the annual abroad one, and we might do some local ones, we might do some sort of weekend ones or day ones as well, just really trying to embrace the fact that this should be something people can do, and you don't necessarily have to go to Spain to do it. Why not just bring it together here as well?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, as you say, that can be your big, almost global event where you can
Take
travel
over the
and
world.
meet, yeah, take over the world. Holly Hannigan-Mills, Flow to Freedom. But also having those local in-person or
Mm,
even perhaps online spaces to
yeah,
connect with those people. And
yeah,
I would love to kind of open up the space a bit more in terms of your coaching, HM coaching, because just like Flow to Freedom, and I know that was a beautiful collaboration, but also you do have your own coaching business. And
yeah.
I'd love to learn a bit more about that and, you know, not just as in like, why should we like work with Holly? Like, I don't mean it in that sense. I would love to know more about you as a person and HM
Mhm.
coaching.
Yeah, so obviously we met with intuitive psychology coaching training, but prior to that, I got quite a sort of a little bit of a varied background, but always been at the center of helping others. So, I work, my undergrad was psychology and childhood and youth studies, and I'd kind of always thought I was going to work with children and young people. And then I had my own children, and I realized I didn't have enough patience for everyone. So I kept,
Especially when they're not yours.
yeah. Well, it was the other way around. I was finding I used all my patience for the children I was working with, especially in special educational needs, and
Yeah,
then come home and had less patience for my own. So I
yeah,
thought,
true.
something's got to give. And again, I just listened to myself and thought this isn't fitting anymore. So I sort of changed direction, changed the narrative, and thought, no, I'm going to work with adults, and then have my children as my patience
Mm,
suckers. and and that was really sort of then I did some lot of work with care work, with domiciliary care, rehabilitation, people coming out of hospital, trying to get them back on their feet, which was just such a joy to do. And I think anyone who's worked in the caring profession, you just there's nothing you can explain to someone, because the people out there who don't and might go like, why do you want to do that? And it's
yeah.
crap pay and it's long hours and it's all those things that we hear about. But when you are there and being that person in someone's life, especially when it's in their own home,
Mm,
and they're at that frail point, whether it's through surgery or through age or illness, and they maybe haven't got family close by or anything. And so you
mm,
can become
mm.
that point for them that they feel familiar, they feel safe with, and you can just build that dynamic to know you're leaving them, even if it's simply with a hot cup of tea and a nice chat. That can be what people need. But then as I moved on, I sort of went back into focusing on, okay, well, where do I want my career to go? What do I actually want it to look like now? But my marriage ended 10 years ago, and I felt really lost. I felt really like, who am I now if I'm not a wife? I'm still a mum, but I'm a single mum, and I haven't really got a career of sorts. I work, but it's not a career. And so I found solution focused hypnotherapy. It was again one of those weird coincidental things. It was an old regular from when I used to work in the pub when I was like 18.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and he trained in it, and I can't remember how, I think we connected on Facebook, that was it. And then so he was sharing what he does as a solution focused hypnotherapist. And I thought, I need something. I knew I wasn't happy. I wasn't confident in myself. I'd lost who I was. And I was like, I don't know what I need, but I need something. And I saw his post and I was like, I'll try that. That'll do. And it changed my life, going through that process. And again, it all works with the subconscious. So it's not the same as intuitive psychology coaching, but it does involve obviously using the subconscious. I found myself again, I found my confidence as a mother, as I am. I have purple hair, because it was really funny that one of the things when I was in trance, it was a question around what would show you that you were that confident person that you are underneath it all. And I said I'd have purple hair. And I thought, when we were talking afterwards, I was like, purple hair. I don't know where purple's one of my favorite colors, but I don't know where that's come from. I've never thought about having purple hair in my life, but it was my subconscious thought that like linked the two. And I remember the day I dyed my hair purple, and I sent a photo to my hypnotherapist and was like, done it. And he was like, yeah, this is the best. Because again, this comes back to where we talk about shame in a bit more in the future. But I had felt that if I had purple hair, people would make a judgment that I'm a bad mum, because a good mum can't have purple hair, right? And this is sort of 9 years ago, so it has moved on a little bit since then. But yeah, back then I really felt what was on the outside dictate what people thought about me, and I really still held on to it, how important it is that people think and see me as these things, a good mum, as a kind person, and all that sort of those narratives. So yeah, so then it transformed it. So I decided I'm going to train and I want to do this for other people. So I qualified as a solution focused hypnotherapist, and I started my own practice. And then that was just a real joy. And to run your own business, as you know now, is tricky. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think for anyone, again, running their own business, high five, because it's not an easy thing to do. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of learning new skills. I mean, I'd never known how to work out even like budgeting my accounts and invoicing people, the tactical things. But then you've got the marketing yourself. Oh, I
Yeah,
hate it.
oh gosh, and you're wearing so many hats, aren't you? As you
Yeah,
say, you're like the social media manager to the like director to the this, and it's.
yeah.
But I just want to go back a bit there because I'm thank you for sharing just even part of your story there, because I know we've connected on it before, being in that caring, like nurturing, like
Mm,
job or role, that although you were guided to those things and you wanted to train, as you said, there was something that you knew you needed, something not quite sure what,
mm,
but you knew you needed more. And it was
yeah.
almost this kind of deeper nudge of like there is more out there. And although there
Mm,
were bits of your time that were obviously fulfilling and things like that, but that journey so far, was there a moment that like cracked you open the most? Was there a time where you were like, this needs to change? Because as you said, you ended up going through a divorce and was feeling quite a lot of feelings of loss
mm,
and, shame and transition and like, who the fuck am I? And I loved when you said
mm.
you were in that trance, because you were like, purple hair? Like, why? But when it happened, you were like, I am being that. But it was almost like once you did it, it was that like trust in
Yeah,
yourself, would you say?
definitely. Because I got to a point where I realized the color of my hair is nothing to do with how I am as a mum or a person. And I am a good mum. And I got to that belief, that real belief that I am, and I know I'm a good person, and I know I'm a good mum. And so, hell yeah, I'm going to dye my hair purple. And it's been many colors of the rainbow, I think, at some point or another. Um,
Yes.
Red. I haven't quite gone your pink. I'm obsessed now with
You
your pink,
should.
thinking,
You should. You should go. We could be twins.
But yeah, I think that was a real moment for me. And I still, though, at the time, I thought I'd done my work. I thought I'd done the work on myself, and I had, again, having a background in psychology, I'd done a lot of understanding, reading, self-helps, all that sort of stuff. Then I did the hypnotherapy. I thought I was there. And then obviously further down the line, realized not quite, not quite there. Still more to be done.
Oh shit, we're here again. Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I dealt with that. And then it's like, no, you didn't. You just touched the surface, put a little plaster over it, maybe. So you didn't
Mm.
go deep, deep enough. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, actually, of not scratching the surface, but not
Mm,
quite getting to that root cause or
yeah.
need. I wonder if for you, like with the different things you were studying, although I'm sure they helped you, was that kind of more fueling this feeling of loss or like shame and guilt? Because although yes, life is cyclical and it's a journey and you're never done, right?
Mm,
Like we're
yeah.
never quite done.
No.
But you do get to, when we know better, we do better, right? And
Mm,
when we know more as well, we can do more for ourselves.
yeah.
And I just wondered, I don't know if this is true for you, but I know for me, in my kind of journey, although I've loved some of the modalities or the things I've learned and they have really helped,
Mm,
And I've also had maybe the other end of the spectrum of like traditional talk therapy, medication, like, and I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But I found I kept coming back to this place of like, oh, I'm here again. Great. I'm not as far as I thought. Or, oh, I really thought I'd be better by now. Or why
Mm,
don't I know enough? I wonder,
yeah.
was that sort of a similar experience for yourself?
Yeah, I think definitely in myself, but so much more I felt as a mother for my daughters or for people in my life, my family. I'm like, I know stuff. I should be able to help them. I should, and I felt a lot of pressure I put on myself to solve everyone's problems, to help everyone. And I reached a burnout, myself because I was just give to everyone all the time, which is what so many of us do, especially women, that we are just trying to be everything to everyone and we forget about ourselves. And so I thought, yeah, I've done my stuff. I'm in a good place. Things are going well. I'd been through a few crappy relationships, got rid of them, moved on, found a space for myself that I really did the work. And then I think it was when COVID happened, which I think is what happened for a lot of people, because then we had to sit with ourselves. We were forced to sit with ourselves. And that's not a nice place for a lot of people. That's a dark place. That's a place that is scary. And I have Crohn's disease. So I have chronic illness. That means medication I was on meant I was clinically vulnerable. And I mean, we could have a whole other conversation about vulnerability, but that's a word I've never, since I got my diagnosis, I've never used for myself because I had a real issue with it, seeing myself vulnerable. I was like, no, I'm strong, I'm independent, I'm all these great things. So to have that letter come through my door saying clinically vulnerable, it hit me like I didn't even expect it to. And I was suddenly like, oh my God, I am. Oh, and then I felt like isolated because I had to isolate. I had to keep myself locked away from people. But it opened up that can again. It took the lid off the box, and then you went, oh, there's that thing again. There's that thought again. There's that behavior again that I didn't really want and thought I dealt with. So I actually used, like I think a lot of people did, that time during, especially the first lockdown, maybe in the second one, to do the deeper work with myself, to do some work that connected me back to some of the roots. Still not all of them because there's still more, but a lot of them. I did a lot more work then. And I started my master's in clinical psychology. So I then had a focus, had something else I'm really passionate about. Psychology has always been part of my life. It's something I'm really connected to, which is funny because people go, but that's so science and evidence based. And then you're there wearing crystals and you put them out in the full moon and that's all woo woo weird shit, and it's like, oh, yes, I am those things. That's because I'm a Gemini and I have a bit of both, but it's like, no, it's because they both exist together. And actually, when you understand both of them, you see how beautifully they are connected and that they are all one. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we went into the deeper work. And then it was coming out of COVID, obviously. I'd looked into moving a bit more away from the sort of more heavier mental health stuff.
Mhm.
I worked in addiction rehab clinics. I've worked for the NHS, working with as an assistant psychologist, with their staff for the mental health and well-being. So, and obviously then I was doing my own business with hypnotherapy, which can be a bit of both. You can get the more serious things, but you can also get the more sort of lighter areas of just mental well-being, which is wonderful. And I kind of reached that, like I said earlier, that burnout point of myself. And I realized I need to take a little step back, not away from it completely. So I started to be more curious about coaching and what that might involve. And I think I'd looked at one possible course and then up popped intuitive psychology coaching. And I was like, ooh, it's got two words that I love. This is a bit of me. Let's have a look at this, get involved. And that then the rest to say is history, because that was the final piece of the puzzle for me. Even though, like you say, I've done the courses, I've done lots of other work, I do have different modalities under my belt. With intuitive psychology coaching just took it to a whole other level. It really genuinely unlocked things in me, the root, like you say, causes, the root beliefs, core beliefs that were still holding me stuck and holding me back. And then I can't count the amount of times I've been and cried when we were doing peer coaching sessions and things, because I was like, I'm crying. I mean, my eyes are closed, so it's fine. But I was just like, didn't expect this. We went into this knowing this, what the technique was going to be, and then something comes
Mm.
up, and I'm like, oh, where have you come from, you part I thought I had dealt with? So yeah, so that's why I think, I knew then that actually moving forward, intuitive psychology coaching was going to be the business. This was going to
Mm.
be my focus, my priority, where my energy is going to go, because what I have seen and felt it do for me and others on our course, and with case studies as well, when we got to work with case studies, it was just like, oh, we need
Mm.
this. We need this out in the world. More people need to experience this. Let's get this going. Let's do it now.
Yes.
In whatever way that takes. So that's why with my one-to-one coaching, and then I'm creating a group program as well, and a membership online. So there's all the different options that people can just connect to it in a different way. And then I added in the retreat stuff. So it's like, yes, go all the way. Just take it all. See what we can do.
Yes, Holly. No, I absolutely love that. And I love what you said about like intuitive psychology being that final piece of the puzzle.
Mm.
And I had goosebumps again, and that's when I know it's a fuck yeah from me. And like,
Yeah.
because I genuinely felt the same. Like it almost felt like my golden ticket of like everything else before then, yes, was meant to happen, but it makes sense now. Like as in
Mm.
it's led me to here blending intuition but having both, because as you said, it's not one or the other. We are multifaceted. We are everything, the light, the
Mm.
dark, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in
Yeah.
between. And yeah, I love what you said about even just having those different ways people can connect with you, because we are all different. And like, I
Mm.
think that's the beauty of this work. I'm sure you could expand on this further, like for me, but I have also worked within the healthcare system, whether that's been childcare and education, special educational needs. But I've also worked with older adults, mental health, and like on the wards and stuff. So I've had a
Mm.
varied sort of caring like background. But I always felt that the reason I did well was because even if maybe I didn't realize it at the time, I was following like my intuition to make it better for the children, for the staff, for the this, whatever it was. But I
Mm.
was constantly sort of met with like a barrier, if that
Mm.
makes sense, and like red tape and
Yeah.
not being able to really give someone something that they could
Mm.
need, because it isn't a one size fits all, and it's
Yeah.
not just one approach. And I really felt where my shame probably grew and amplified during this time for me was that, say, whatever I tried, even though I was doing what everyone told me to do, it
Mm.
wasn't really working. And that left me feeling, well, what the fuck's wrong with me? So when intuitive psychology came and I was able to cut through the bullshit, the noise, and
Yeah.
actually get in there, it is just the magic, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, our journeys sound very similar in the backgrounds of the types of roles that we've done, and even down to being Disney princesses. Let's just add that in there because that was always fun. That was, again, it was so funny that when I did that role, it was just after my marriage had broken down, and I just turned 30, yeah, 10 years ago. And I went into a year of saying yes. It was just in my head, I was like, say yes to every opportunity that comes your way as long as it won't harm yourself or others. That was kind of where I went with it. So I ended up in that year, yeah, being a Disney princess, being an extra in a music video.
What?
Absolutely. Climbed a mountain and did a few, like, this is such random things, but it was such a fun thing to look back and go, yeah, it might not have made complete sense, but I didn't feel a resistance to it. So I just said, yeah, why not? What's the worst that could happen?
I
Um,
love that. It
yeah.
was like a fuck yeah year.
Yeah, it
Like
really was. Yeah. Think
from
of being to
mountaintops
another
to
one.
music videos. Should we want the link for that? I want to see this music video.
Luckily, there was no dancing or anything like that. I was just sat on a bus, at top of a bus, pretending to
Oh.
scroll on my phone.
Oh no, I love it though, because even though like you say, it may be random, those that fuck yeah, like allowing yourself to just do things
Mm,
that are maybe random or don't make sense to others can actually be so freeing.
yeah.
Yeah, and so liberating, especially doing
Yeah.
it how we've always done. It's obviously not working because if you
Yeah.
look at the statistics for mental health or, like all of that,
Yeah.
whatever we've been doing so far clearly isn't working. And I have found I've loved the shift that I've seen within sort of the collective at the
Mm,
moment, kind of going back to that remembering, fusing these ancient practices, but also blending it with the knowledge that we are learning now
yeah.
to create something, amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that there's so much noise and external kind of chaos and horror in the world. And yet, our brains weren't meant to know all the stuff we know. They've evolved and we've developed and we've grown, but at such a rapid rate, particularly with technology, that actually it's too overwhelming, that we're not ready. And that's part of why in our westernized society, I think particularly, we have so much more mental ill health, because we're just overwhelmed with what we find out and what we hear constantly about all the horrible stuff in the world. And sometimes it's about turning back inwards, shutting the door to the external noise, turning back inwards, just really connecting back to yourself and finding joy. Is such a It's interesting when we do unlayering, which is one of our amazing techniques. In At the bottom of mine was always joy.
Mm.
And I kept getting to joy, and I kept thinking, oh, it should be unconditional love, or it should be this, or again, I think it should be, but I couldn't get past joy. And I was like, no, that's it. That's what sits within me at the root of everything that I try and do is joy. And so
Mm.
I'm really, really sort of connected to try and help other people reconnect to what brings them joy, even for the little things. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to just connect back to that younger self, to connect back to when we were a child. And when children, again, before they get too much technology involved in their lives, they find joy in a box, like a cardboard box can bring hours of joy. And it's simple things like that. Rolling down a hill, I did that not a few years ago. My daughters were mortified, but we were by this big hill, and someone said, let's roll down. And I was like, yeah, come on then. I just rolled down this giant hill.
I love you
um
as a mum. Like, I love you as a friend, but I also love you as a mum because you honestly, like, that is what you admit is joy. And I'm honestly not surprised that during
yeah.
unlayering that was joy. And I love that
mm,
you got to a point where you were like, no, it isn't anything else. Like, joy is at the
mm,
heart of everything I do.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like, helping others to understand the value of like investing in themselves to like reconnect with that joy.
mm,
That is priceless, like
yeah.
reconnecting to it is absolutely priceless.
Yeah. And what I think is amazing as well is that when people have really lost what joy might feel like or look like, they haven't had it or felt it or experienced it for so long, or sometimes not really ever fully allowed themselves to, for various reasons. And if you've got someone who's really sort of had a difficult road that has sort of gone into the depths of mental ill health and mental despair, and maybe addiction or something has been involved, for them to be able to get to a place where joy can be felt and can be used in a positive, because there's like, I don't deserve that. That will always come up. I don't deserve to feel joy. I've done bad things, or I'm a bad person, all that sort of stuff,
Mm.
where that shame creeps in and takes over. And I think if you can really help someone deeply unlayer, unpick those wounds, release what's holding them back, release those energies that are blocked, and listen to those parts, connect with shame, connect with rejection, connect with whatever it might be. That's when you see the little glimmer of light, and then it grows and it grows, and then you get to helping them see and experience joy again. I mean, I had a
Mm.
client who used to love and find joy in art, and they were an artist. And they hadn't painted or done any art for years because they'd fallen into sort of the lows and just not seeing its value. And then I think one of our last sessions, maybe the second to last session, she was like, not only have I started painting again stuff, I went down to my local cafe and I asked if they will display my artwork and sell it. And she's going to then host those sip and paint classes or whatever it is. So she'd gone full on, like back to, and the joy in her face when she was sharing this with me was just like, there it is, there it is. I love this so much.
Oh, I absolutely love that, especially from being in such a like dark place
Mm,
and to, as you said, like some people have never really allowed themselves or felt safe enough to
mm,
fully experience joy, or perhaps with what experiences they've had don't believe that they fully deserve joy. So the fact that during those sessions she was able to actually reconnect back to her
mm,
own unique joy, especially after not painting for so long and then following it. And not only
mm.
did she follow that, it grew.
Yeah, yeah, it
I
was
love
amazing.
that.
And it's
I,
just those things, it is those simple things sometimes that bring us pleasure, bring us joy. And it doesn't have to be like expensive, it doesn't have to be elaborate. Like I said,
Mm,
even just appreciating the joy of a hot cup of tea or coffee in the morning, simple things, but they really make a difference when you reframe them to see them as
mm,
moments of joy. Yeah, I love that. And that's again when we were doing the retreat, what we were connecting to with the sunrise and sunset, particularly, or even just lying by the pool in the sun. And one of the things I really sort of rounded off when we were closing was around, because they were all talking about the sun. And I said, the sun is the same in England and the UK back home as it is here. It's our same light energy source. It's our same beautiful sun. Might not be
mm,
as hot or as an intense, but it's the same. So don't feel like you can only do this because you're on retreat or you're on holiday. Use this. Use what you've learned to connect to that energy from the sun, to feel the warmth on your face, or just to
mm,
welcome in a new day and practice gratitude, just to say when you're stood there in your window, because it's a bit horrible outside or cold, you think, I'm just going to stand in my window as the day starts to unfold with my hot drink of or cold orange juice or water, whatever you like in the morning. And I'm not going to be picky. And just take that moment to just to go, I get to experience another day. That
mm.
gratitude for being able to, not everyone gets that experience, not everyone gets that privilege. And it might be hard. It might be you've got to have shit conversations, or you've just got a tough day at work or a tough day at home or whatever it is. But trying to just get those little pockets in of just where you can experience that moment will help you then cope better with all the difficult things that are to come. And then just that's what you work with, that's what you build on. But yeah, just the simplest things sometimes is something that I really sort of
Mm.
try and help people see, that it's so important to bring them into our lives.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, of just even that slight reframe, that slight shift can have such a ripple effect, not only for you, but also what you bring out. Because the more that
Mm,
you are grateful for, and also, it's not even like going to the end result, is it? It's breaking
no.
it down, as you said, making it simple. It's being grateful for the sun hitting your face, or for hearing the trees whisper to each other as the
Mm,
wind flies through, even though today on my walk I was frozen. I had my little but the sun was shining, there was blue skies, I was able to breathe in fresh cleansing air, and I was like, I
hmm.
am grateful that I can feel the wind on my face,
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
get to use my legs to walk up the
Mm,
hill,
yeah,
to play with my dog and to
yeah.
laugh. And it is stripping it back, actually, that we don't always have to, especially as you said, with all the noise, and even going
Mm,
back to that childlike joy, that
yeah.
childlike essence of being able to be happy when it's raining or when it's not.
Jump in a puddle. Come on, get your boots on. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Get your wellies on. Let's go. I
Yeah.
love that. I was wondering if, when you mentioned about inner child there, if you could go back and speak to a younger version of yourself, like before all of this began, what would you tell her?
Mm. I think I would always just say everything happens for a reason and you will get through it. It's just that, because there's moments where when stuff is happening that you feel like you won't, and you can have those deep, deep, dark thoughts where it feels impossible, and it feels like there is no hope. And so it's just being able to tell that younger self that you will get through all the, because you can't live a life without challenges. You can't live a life without hardship and difficulties, because it's also what makes us human. It's the world we live in. But more than that, it's what makes us appreciate and understand what happiness and joy is. If you've never experienced sadness, you can't experience happiness because you don't know the difference.
Mhm.
And it's that
Mhm.
balance. So it's just telling her whatever happens, it happens for the reasons it needs to, and you will get through it.
I love that. Everything happens for a reason, exactly as it
Mm,
should. You are going to get through it. You
mm,
have all the answers, but having that duality in life, that yin and yang energy,
mm,
good, bad, the light, the dark, because I feel like when we suppress
mm.
and push things down, that is when we become depressed.
Yeah.
Dis-ease causes dis-ease. It will then show up physically,
Mm,
emotionally, in your relationships. It will, you're always admitting something out,
yeah.
like whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. So
Mm,
sort of stripping it back but like it sounds like what you're saying is a deep acceptance for that younger self, that
yeah.
although there is hardship or there are things you might get wrong or say wrong or
Mm,
will happen to you, that's okay. You're human.
yeah. Yeah. And it's taken me to late 30s to realize that. So if I could have learnt that younger, then that would have been great. Because, like you say, the amount of times, I think probably everyone will agree that you beat yourselves up, you give yourself such a hard time over something you think you said or did wrong, or, and even the smallest of things where you just think, I wish I'd said that differently, or I shouldn't have said that, you know, and then you just carry it on and build it until you feel like such shame, and you're like, oh God, I said the worst thing ever. I made that person feel horrendous. What an awful person I am. I'm such a bad person. It's all those sorts of thoughts and times that we go through. Um, to know that actually, and my favorite phrase that I use now, and I use clients, people I know, friends, family, I say we are all beautifully flawed humans, because that's how I see everyone, is beautiful souls. We're flawed because we're human. We live in this human body with this
Mm,
human mind. Um,
mm,
and I think that's that realization that, yeah, you're not always going to get it right. And you might say the wrong thing and you might screw up and make a mistake, but it's okay. It's learning. And as long as you're not malicious and
mm.
intent to hurt others, then it's okay to make mistakes and just learn and grow from them. But yeah, I think, yeah, younger Holly would have liked to know that a bit sooner. Would have saved
Oh,
years of
I
skin
wouldn't
and
say
everything.
me years of trauma, for God's sake, but at least I'm funny. But,
Yeah.
at least I
At
got
least I
good
got
humor.
stories. Yeah.
Content. But no, I absolutely love that because although, yeah, we wish we would have known it sooner, but you have such wisdom and stories to tell from those like juxtapositions of
Mm,
life.
yeah.
And I just think that is really amazing to have that acceptance and awareness that we are imperfectly perfect. But as long
Hmm.
as you're doing it with heart and soul, you can't go
Mm,
wrong.
yeah.
And I mean, I feel like I have been experiencing this and it just feels like relevant to share even during my own movement with, say, social media. And I don't know
Mm,
if you found it with you, like setting up HM coaching, but to put yourself out in this space because you're so passionate, you are almost being vulnerable. You're
oh, yeah.
courageously sharing your story with your whole heart, but
Yeah.
letting others know that it's okay. Like whether
Mm,
it's me turning up with no makeup on or it's me, like, I don't know if you saw, but I was dyeing my hair the other week and I looked like Slim Shady at one point, and I was like, and I ended up going out like that. And I was like walking through town, people staring at me like, what the fuck is she doing? And I was just kind of like, what is everyone looking at? Like, what's going on? Like I was loving life. And it wasn't until I got home and looked at myself and thought, oh, fucking hell. But a past version of me would have been crippled
yes.
by, like what others were thinking, saying, doing, learning about me. I even saw my
Yeah.
hairdresser and I actually felt a bit of shame. I saw her and went, oh, fuck. And went, shit, she can't see me. And I had to remind myself of like, it's not that deep. You are
Mm,
imperfectly perfect, like you
yeah.
say. It doesn't matter whether you're aesthetically pleasing or palatable to others, you
Yes.
know?
I mean, God, with 'cause I'm rocking the fringe at the moment, you see,
Love them.
and it goes a bit if it's flat and stuck. So I put a little roller in my fringe most mornings now. I give it a wash, wash up. The amount of times I've left the house with that roller in the front of my hair, looking like a right twat, and and the girls don't doubt it, and then they'll be like, "Mum, why are you going out the house like that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then, of course, my fringe is then stuck up here, which looks even worse, and I'm trying to like push it down. So yeah, very much. Before that would have, like you say,
Yeah.
oh my God, I would have felt like the worst, most embarrassed person. Like, how embarrassing! Everyone's gonna think I'm right idiot, whatever.
Yeah.
Now I just laugh and think you're an idiot, like you're a
Yeah.
twat, but in a good
Yeah.
sense of way, like not as in I'm giving myself a hard time, but just saying what a wally. And so now I do a
Yeah.
check, so it's phone, keys, and roller in hair. No, before I go out the door.
I love that. Phone keys, roller. And I have like I had a fringe for like years and years. It's only been recently that I've rocking the bangs. And I don't know about you, but did you ever wake up like that? Like if you didn't dry it properly and it's just like this, and you're like, I'm a peacock or something.
Yeah, what the hell's going on here? Yeah,
But that's it. I
something
think,
about Mary.
yeah, just and I think it's one of those, as you say, that would have crippled you, or you would have been like,
Mm,
whereas now you can come at it from a different way of like, even if you're still like, what a twat, it's not like
yeah.
oh, you should be ashamed or like
No.
this. It's more of a like, you silly
Oh,
Billy, like, what
yeah.
you
It's with
like.
humor. Yeah, humor, like
Yeah.
you
And
said. Yeah.
love, I feel.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah. Because again, it's just that, God, actually, if I broke it down, it's because I'm running around trying to do everything for everyone in the mornings, make sure everyone's ready to go, make everyone's in school, all that sort of stuff. And then it's like, oh, yeah, the last thing I think about is myself. So then it's like, I forgot I had this in my hair, and actually, so what? It takes a few seconds to smooth down a fringe.
Mm.
But I'd like to think there are still people who obviously, for various reasons, may hold judgments of others. But I think most people would smile and just be like, "Oh, she's forgot she's got that in her hair,"
She
and
meant
not
to go
be
out
like,
like
"Yeah, oh,
that.
maybe it's a new style. Is this a new TikTok trend I don't know about?" Yeah,
You
start
never
one now.
ever know. You never know. That's what you could style it as, to be fair. No,
Yeah.
did you not see it on TikTok?
Okay.
Oh, loads of views, me. Loads of views. No, I
Yeah.
love that though. Just moving beyond shame and guilt and just, yeah, there are
Mm,
people that may hold judgments, but and it's yet again going back to that humanness, right?
mm.
Judgments have kept us safe at
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
point, whether that's been from certain people, whether it's been through tribes or just on, because you can feel energy, we've heard it
Yeah.
before. You walk into a room and people are like, oh, you could cut
Mm.
the tension in here with a knife,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like, or it might be like, wow, I always feel so good after seeing her. Like, she's so, so jolly. Like,
Lift you.
yeah,
Yeah.
she lifts me. And I wonder if was there ever like a guilty pleasure like that for you that turned out to be your medicine in terms of whether it was something of a spiritual practice or, something that, yeah, was a bit of a guilty pleasure that ended up turning out to be your medicine?
Wow. So I guess what dancing has always been my thing. I think when I was younger, I really wanted to be a backing dancer. That was my dream. It wasn't to be a singer or pop star or front of stage. It was a backing dancer, but on like, pop star tour or something.
Yes.
Sadly, it wasn't the reality, especially with Crohn's disease. It just didn't fall that way. And I don't think realistically I got quite enough talent for that or commitment. But I still love it. And so I will dance everywhere, anywhere. My daughters again, often,
Mm,
Mum, don't dance. If we're out and about and a song comes on I love, I just can't help but move. And then they're like, God, like, sorry, it's teenagers now. I'm probably like the
yeah.
most embarrassing mum in the world. I try not to be. I try to be like reasonably cool sometimes, but I
No,
don't
I
go
think
for
you're
that.
really cool. Like, I think you're honestly, I think you're so cool, and I would love
Oh,
that if you were bopping in the shop or something, just because it's like I just love that freedom you have, and maybe it's yet again flow to freedom. It's that
mm, yeah,
it's being connected to your joy and being able
yeah,
to move. I love that dancing does that for you.
definitely. I always think of that. Have you seen the film Sing? The
Yeah.
cartoon film. where the pig is in the shopping mall shop, and there's no one else around, and the music playing, and she just starts like busting out all the moves, and then they turn the music up for her. I was like, yeah, that would be me. Like that would be me. I would just be like, yeah, and then I don't care, because that's where I've got to at this point in my life. I don't care anymore. I care about the people I love and know, and that what their opinion of me means something because they know me. But anyone else to walk down the street or something, like I don't care
Yeah.
generally, to a point. Obviously, we're all human again, and
Yeah.
occasionally something or might be said, or like you say, especially social media sort of thing. And it's like, oh yuck. And then you can go in and have a little burrow
Mm.
around and work through that. But I think as a whole, I don't generally care too much. Enough, yeah, it doesn't stop me doing those things that I love that bring me joy. The same as when I joke around, have it like I say, getting my crystals out or something. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm always wanting to learn more and understand more. But even on the retreat, I was able to share the little knowledge I do have with others. And we went to this amazing crystal shop, and we were there like, and I was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. And I don't know, like they were like, oh, what should I get for this? Or what would be good for this? And I was like, oh, some of them I know, lots I don't. So, and then the lovely lady, even though she didn't speak great English, came over and was like, help? We were like, yes, please. And then
Oh,
she was trying to help us and make sure that everyone had the right ones, but for them. Um,
beautiful.
but it was just that, before I would have maybe felt that that was something not to be openly chat about, especially coming into that from the psychology point, with a very education, academic kind of people. And then, it's just, oh, and you do that. Yeah, I do. And
Mm.
but the amount of times now, even just with my rings, I've just got a couple of rings that have crystals in, or a necklace particularly that I might wear, and say, oh my God, what is that? That's beautiful. And then I just tell them what crystal it is or what stone it is, and then they just go, oh, what does that do, or what's that mean? So people are curious, and the word I always have for myself, and I had a sticker on my one of my books, is just be curious, because
Mm.
if you can, in any interactions you have with people in the world, be curious, just ask, want to know more in a positive, curious way that isn't about judgment, that isn't about shame, isn't about guilt or making someone feel small. It's genuine curiosity, because I think that's the way forward to help understand different people's perspectives,
Mm.
different people's points of view, and just be curious and open to learning, to knowing more, to sharing what you know, but knowing that it might not always land, it might not always resonate with someone, but that's okay. It's not for us to push anything on anyone else. It's just about being open to different ways of thinking, different ideas, trying something new. And that's where I think, yeah, curiosity is one of the most powerful things we can have.
I would totally agree with you, being more curious about yourself, the world around
Mm.
you, and like not just settling for one answer, like, digging deeper and yeah, going on a journey with that. I love that you said that, because we can feel like, as you say, you might not know everything, but there are stuff that you do know. And it's like, why not share that out
Yeah.
and, develop my knowledge? But yeah, like it especially as you say, coming from that academic and very like clinical background, I would say it can hold barriers. And I
Mm.
don't know if you experienced that as you were transitioning, because obviously you hold beautiful worlds, like you have got the science, but you also have the soul. So blending those, did you ever find there were almost resistance or judgments people made when, say, you were wearing crystals, but you were meant to be this like professional lady, if you see what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I even probably put some judgments on myself,
Mm.
in like, how far can I go with this, or how far do I want to go? And then I felt a little bit almost like it flipped it the other way, in that because I'm not full on wearing tie-dye dresses and beautiful, fully embracing what people think of when they think of spirituality, or that
Hmm.
sort of thing, that I felt then like, oh, maybe, I'm feeling a bit ashamed that I'm not that way, but I still love it. And where does my place fit with that? Because I don't fit the narrative of someone who's spiritual. Um, and like I say, when I then actually, so I shifted it from, rather than it being from the sort of more science academic side, the judgment and shame almost came from the spiritual side, which is
Mm.
really, really, really like a strange thing for me to have done. But the more people I've spoken to about it, actually, it's quite common that there is more of an underlying sometimes feeling that would don't use our
Mm.
words or our
Mm.
thing when you're not really
Mm-hmm,
fully
It's
there.
yeah. Some people almost treat it like a fashion trend or like an accept or a
Mm.
club that you're not allowed to
Hmm.
be a part of. And it's like, well, no, like whether it's spirituality, like religion, like angels, got whatever resonates for you, like
Yeah.
it's a universal
Yeah.
source. Like it is for everyone.
Yeah. And what you feel and know within yourself, within your soul, within your inner wisdom and your intuition, it, there isn't in my opinion, a physical external way I need to express that. I can express it in how I communicate with the world, the way I go about myself, what I do. And if I want to dye my hair purple, I will. If I want to have crystals on it, if I want to wear a suit, I will. If I want to wear a smart dress, I will. And it doesn't take anything away from who I am inside and my internal
Hmm.
beliefs and me as a person. But it's that letting go of the judgment around, oh, if you're spiritual, you should look a certain way and behave a certain way. And if you're not spiritual, you should look and behave a certain way. And just accepting it. It's that acceptance of be who you want to be, live your life as long as you're not hurting others or yourself. Just be true to you. And that's the work we do, obviously, trying to help people really connect back into that. Who are you? Who am I without my corporatey clothes? Who am I without my floaty, beautiful dresses? What is underneath and what sits within?
I love that what's underneath what sits within because yeah, we're always trying to chase this. And as you said, it's quite interesting that you have felt more judgment with this like almost spiritual side because there can be that like you're not allowed to do this or they're like lying undertones, whereas actually stripping it all back, what are you without all of that?
Mm. Yeah.
We're all just beautifully, imperfectly perfect humans. And yeah, I just think that's amazing that you've been able to shift that judgment because that sounded very suffocating, whereas now it feels like a different, and obviously, as you said, we're still human. There'll be days where things obviously come up or affect you
Yeah.
more, but where you are right now, blending what you've learned and continue to learn especially in terms of intuition. And I know you're very talented with your sleep studies as well. Like you are a very whole body person. I'd love to tap into a bit more of that. Like, do you feel, even with your basic needs, that that contributes towards whether it's connecting to your intuition or the signs? Is there a way for someone that's been so closed off to the things that we've been discussing, whether that's,
Yeah.
joy or freedom, because I'm sure there are people listening that have been in similar situations to yourself or myself that are like, but
Mm.
you did it. I can't, or it's
Mm.
not that way for me. Is there anything
Mm.
you could share on that?
I think can't is a real it's up there with hate, two words that I don't like to use and to try and change because language is so powerful and I think people really underestimate how powerful language is. So even when we're talking about reframing or changing slightly the words we use. So, you know, even when it comes to can't, I would often work and sort of say, you say you can't, why can't you? Probe on the why of be curious. Why do you feel you can't? What's stopping you? What's the blocks? But like we have a thing where someone says, I can't sleep. And we know, again, the way the brain works, that the more we tell ourselves, the messaging we give ourselves that we can't do something, we will believe it. We will then create the habits, the beliefs to reinforce that. So then you won't sleep very well. And then you'll be like, oh, see, told you, can't sleep.
Yep,
And
confirmation. Yep.
yeah, they've
Mm-hmm.
got that. That's what I needed to see. That's what I needed to see. So it will be really taking it into what words are you using? Look at the language you're using around your beliefs about yourself, about how you think about things and what you can and can't do. Um, and there is a bit of like some of the words you use then would sort of fall into that victim
Mm-hmm.
space. And then, that comes into, okay, really safely, making that person feel safe so they feel that they cannot be that victim anymore. They can take back control. They can, and that's the big thing, is control for a lot of people. And even when it comes, like say, the basic needs around sleep, for example, it is so much like that we could, like the external stuff is just constant. So when we try to go internally, and when we try to then say, well, what can we control? Can't control anyone else, can't control what anyone else thinks, feels, does, behaves, but we can control
Mm.
ourselves to a point.
Mhm.
And so really bringing it in and think, okay, well, go to the basics. Do I have a good evening sleep hygiene routine? That's one of the basics. Okay, what does that look like? Are you able to say, yeah, I'm not on my phone after 9 o'clock? That's what people say. Like, oh yeah, I don't scroll online at night in bed. Okay. Um, but the reality is, for lots of people, they do. And if you
Mm.
do, that's okay. Maybe just do things that will help, like put a blue light filter on, put night mode on, wear those
Mhm.
fancy blue light glasses if you want to. Um, we're not going to try and change the world in one big move. It's just those little tweaks, little changes to bring you back to a more stable place. Um, but yeah, the way we use our language is the key, I think, for so many things of what we feel we can achieve and what
Mm.
challenges there are. Because so I might say, for example, with can't, I would, instead of saying I can't do that, I'd say it's more difficult to do that, or I find it challenging to do that. But
Mm.
because it's still, you're still acknowledging that it's not easy and you can't magically just do it. But by
Yes.
saying can't, it's like a full stop. Can't,
Mhm.
full stop.
Mhm.
Whereas just opening it with a bit more challenging, or it's quite difficult to do that. You're still
Mm.
opening the possibility that you can still achieve it.
Yes, yes, that I can find a way. Although I find it
Yeah.
challenging right now, it may
Hmm.
not always be challenging. I love that getting, and it's going back to that curiosity again, isn't it? And
Mm.
like challenging yourself, but with that compassion and
Yeah.
curiousness of like, okay, what am I saying? Like, what are the words I'm using? How do I speak about myself or others or the world around me? Because sometimes we're not
Mm.
actually aware of the comments like
Yeah.
we can make. We might notice it about other people. Like
Mm.
I remember, say, my nan when I was younger in Scotland, fucking bang hanging out her mouth, just sort of like looking, watching people go by, like, oh, same clothes the night before, lag. And you're like, now, like, Jesus. And like, my mum would be, it could be anything like that. And it's, I know that was a bit of a funny example.
But it's true. Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
true.
it is true. So yeah, but getting more curious about like the beliefs you have, because some of them might not even be yours, like you may have heard
Mm.
it from someone else or may have seen it. And I know for myself, I've really had to challenge certain things of like,
Mm.
is this actually mine?
Yeah.
Or has it been given to me? And do I need to release any like cords or attachments around that? Because
Hmm.
actually it's then affecting the language I use, which
Yeah.
then, to be fair, is affecting your mood, how you
Yeah.
feel, and the thoughts we feel then affect the action we take, right? Or
Yeah.
that we don't take.
Mm. Exactly. And I think I love that when I think about shame, particularly, and guilt, because some people are not aware that there's a difference even between the two. And then they just sort of just think, well, I feel guilty, I feel ashamed. But and it comes back to, like you say, the behaviors, the thoughts, the actions, the feelings, they're all slightly different. And they're all elements to a combined experience. So we can work on some easier than others. And so when we think about like guilt, for example, you think, because that's a behavior, we feel guilt when we've done a behavior. So I did a bad thing, it's
Mhm,
that.
mhm,
But that's really useful because it means you go, I did a bad thing, and then you make a change so you don't do it again. It
mhm,
changes the action. Whereas shame is that feeling, it focuses on identity. It's I'm a bad person. And
mhm,
that's the damaging one. So guilt is something that we all as humans should feel at some point.
mhm,
Sometimes we can make mistakes, we do things wrong. But when it builds into shame and shame takes over, that's really damaging because it makes us feel like we're fundamentally flawed. That there's something really wrong with us as a person. We're a bad person, and it holds on to our identity and takes over and can
Mm,
consume us. And so it comes back to what you were sort of saying there around understanding the difference between what is a feeling, and what is fact. It's
mm,
and really working with that, and the more we can do that and check in and think, is this mine? Is this my, is this me? Is this what I really feel? Or is it a story I'm creating? Is it my tricky mind being a little bit of a pain again? And then, we do the work where we'll go in and connect to that part. And it might be that when we do, we realize that it's the protector part. And actually, shame is trying to keep us safe, because by
mm.
making us feel ashamed, we're protecting ourselves from going there again, from getting the risk of being rejected, being hurt. And I think that's when we delve into all of those bits, which we love to do. It can really open up that space to just go send their compassion, send love, and just acknowledge that shame is something that is a human emotion. It's a feeling, but it's not an identity, and it shouldn't take over all of us, because we are so much more than that one part.
I just want to say that again. We are so much more than just that one part.
Mm,
Shame isn't your identity. You're so right. And thank you for just bringing a bit more awareness to the difference between shame and guilt. Because as you
mm,
say, guilt could be quite a good indicator of like, oh shit, I
mm,
know I maybe shouldn't have done that and I did, but actually I'm not going to do that again. Like it can be a
yeah.
good indicator to not do it again. But actually, as you say, shame can overtake our life so much so that
Mm,
it stops us doing things
mm,
because we're so consumed by this label that we've created when actually we are many things, we can experience a whole range of emotions. I feel like even behind you, is that the emotion like wheel there?
no,
No, is
it's
that
my
not it?
beautiful clock.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, I was like, it looks like that emotion wheel, with all the different
Yeah, yeah.
ones. Yeah, and that just
But
what's
no,
made me think of it as
just my
well.
lovely
Just that
clock.
looks
Mm.
beautiful. Yes,
I,
that's what made me think of it. Like it's like that rainbow, isn't it? It's
yeah.
so many
Yes.
different.
Exactly. And it is all, they all have a place, as we know, they all have a purpose, they all have a place, but it's not letting one dominate and consume us as an identity is really important. And I think, and that's what happens a lot with shame, particularly because when shame festers, when it grows, when it consumes, it leads to resentment. And that leads down the path where lots of people will sort of fall into bad, unhealthy behaviors. Negative experiences will lead them into that space. And once you're there and you're in it, then you'll keep repeating behaviors that lead you to feel guilty, that lead you to add to that shame bucket. And then it grows and grows and
Mm,
grows to the point where you can't see a way out. And actually, once we start unlayering and allowing that shame to be heard, to be felt, I mean, God, we all know it. I think everyone probably has done something they felt ashamed of in their life. And you feel it in your body, don't you? That physical. I mean, I know for me, I literally feel like I'm going to throw up. It's that physical stomach, like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happened. For others, it might be like that really tight chest. Like that's it's
mm.
such an intense physical feeling attached to that emotion feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, and it can show up. It's quite similar to you, like almost feeling sick, but it can almost be like a very fearful energy and a very like, I can't believe I've done that. Like I can never say that again, or I can never and it's yeah it's like a very freeze-like state, isn't it? And as you say,
Yeah.
you anchor that emotion and that experience to it, but then you end up just piling on more evidence because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. The negative bias. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're kind of instills that level of guilt and shame again on top because it's like, oh, well, I am clearly a piece of shit because I
Yeah.
didn't stick to what I said and I didn't
Yes.
do this or I didn't do that. But actually, I'd like to challenge that sometimes the reason, even if you have conscious intent of doing something, whether that's starting a new gym routine, whether that's
Mm,
quitting smoking, whether that's getting a better night's sleep, sometimes there is a subconscious wound, a belief, a
yeah.
paradigm there that is actually trying to protect you in case you fail again.
Exactly. Because that's potentially an even worse feeling, and so it's like, well, let's just make sure that we can't experience that feeling again because that was horrendous. So by doing
Yeah.
that, and the shame voice is so loud, and actually what we find is that when we are, especially shame, in that with that loud inner critic voice giving us such a hard time, repeating past mistakes, really reminding you constantly on a loop and critiquing you and judging you, putting that self-judgment, that it's so hard then to hear and connect to our intuition. So while you've got that loud noise, it's really difficult to just trust and learn to connect with your intuition. That's why, having that space and time to go there first, to let go, to release those parts, to connect with them is so important. And that's what we do obviously with the shadow alchemy stuff. We go to the shadow, we work with it, we don't fear it because it's part of us. It's just embracing that as something that we're all experiencing in some way or another. And then once we've got there, once we've connected with it, once we've allowed ourselves to hear it, to say it out loud. Oh, I mean, sometimes that to say it out loud is like, I think everyone can just be like, no, I just can't say it. I just can't say it. Because when you say it out loud, it makes it real. And then that really
Mm,
gives it that space to go, see, and attack you. But if you're doing that in a safe, loving, compassionate space,
mm,
it can free you. It literally, you see people, their shoulders just lift. It's like they've literally taken that weight off. And then there's that space. And when you've created that space, that's where you can bring in the intuition. That's where you can bring in that connection to self, that you can allow yourself to really know what's real, what's fact, what's truth, rather than that protector part being too dominant.
that's beautiful, especially with in our coaching, we do a lot of eyes closed work, like
Mm,
removing that distraction, like dropping away from the noise. Because as you say, like you cannot heal through shame and you cannot heal through someone like forcing you or shouting at you to get better or this, it has to be done through love, compassion,
mm,
safety, and knowing that you are more than just one thing. And as you said, you put it so beautifully there. But yeah, just the wisdom that lives within you is there, but it's tapping into that. How would you say for someone that is like engulfed in that shame
mm,
and wants to start connecting with actually not just their intuition, but maybe joy or just
mm.
releasing that shame and experiencing something more.
Yeah. I think one of the best places to kind of start with is when you feel that intense wave of shame hit you, when it comes for whatever reason, something happened or just of memory, just pause, just take that pause to stop, to breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth, just some slow, steady breaths, and then ask yourself, is this my true intuitive self talking? Or is this my scared protector part? And if that sounds too wordy, you can take it even simpler and just breathe in and say, is this fact or is this a story? And then just taking that moment will really help connect into what's potentially real and what's not. But really, if you don't feel you're able to share it out loud, to say those words, to releasing shame, writing it down. So, it doesn't have to be a full journal, but just making it physical, making it real. Because when you see the words on the paper, when you say them out loud, it takes away some of the power. When this just inside in our internal dialogue is so powerful, we believe it so much. But when we say it, when we write it, we go, actually, now I've said it or now I'm reading it, that's not me or that's not true. And we can have that reflective from that sort of stepping back position to just really say, okay, now we can work on this. Now we can build on this because it's that starting point of accepting that feeling, that intense inner critic voice of shame. Actually, maybe it's not quite right. Maybe it's not quite true. And that's where you can build on it.
I love that. Just being able to write it down, making it real, It does. I like to call it a brain dump or a
Yeah.
declutter because, if you have got all these racing thoughts and then piling on those emotions on top, you feel
Mm,
awful. You might feel physically bogged down by it all, and actually to speak it out in a non-judgmental space or to write it down and create some safety within yourself and asking, as you said, is this fact or is it actually a story I've made up or been given?
mm, yeah.
Just challenging.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be, there's obviously different modalities that things work in different way. And it's, again, what works for you as an individual is there's no right or wrong style of any kind. And sometimes the ones that are more to challenge a belief, to
Hmm.
challenge a thought, it's almost like you're being another criticizer of yourself by going, that's not true, that's the wrong thought, I need to not think that, I need to think positively, those kinds of things. You're still giving yourself a hard time. Whereas the way we approach it in that compassionate way, in that understanding and just allowing and accepting that everything is valid, every emotion we have serves a purpose and has a place.
Hmm.
And it might not always get it right. Sometimes it might be too strong, but comes from a place of love. And when we understand that, when we get that about ourselves, it changes how we feel and view all of our emotions. And it allows the space to really move forward in the way that you might want to, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that. And would you say, just to expand on that a bit further, when you said about like it may be a bit too strong or it may feel like quite intense or like almost the wrong thing, would you say that, parts of your shadow, so to speak, have been your greatest teachers?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think we need them like for a sense of to understand where we align morally and in our judgments and to learn to trust our judgments, because it's like when toddlers are learning to walk and talk and do all those developmental stages, you know, they might, because of the way society's become, we want them to have achieved things at a certain point. But what happens if you think, for example, when you're learning to walk, the first time you try, you fail. It doesn't mean you never try again. You keep
Mm,
trying and you learn, okay, well, this time I'll try and hold myself up for a few minutes before I try and move my legs. But, it's not a conscious thought. It's just happening. You're building that learning, building that understanding. And I think when the shadow parts come in as we're adults and we move through life, we use them to really understand, okay, that didn't quite work out as I wanted it to. That made me feel crap. Or recognize, like you say, when you walk into a room and there's someone or something and you think, don't know what it is, but you're not my kind of person. Or there's something there, I'm not enjoying this energy. I'm going to take myself over here, and I've talked to this lovely person. And we can do that when we've got that connection to self and we've got that understanding. But the only way we can get there is working with our shadow to understand that those protector parts, they're not trying to make you rude. They're not trying to make you a bitch. They're just there to help us go, okay, no, I'm going to just choose to be over here. You don't have to give an explanation. You don't have to explain yourself. Just listen and trust. But if you haven't acknowledged and done the work with your shadow, it will all just blur. It'll all just be
mm,
one. And then it's a case of which is the loudest voice. And that's where the shadow parts tend to be the loudest voices. And we don't
mm.
always feel what their purpose is in the right way.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a really angry, like family dinner, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's shouting at each other, or it's like you see it in the films, at Christmas time, and it's all tense. Like that's kind of how it feels, I think, when my
Yeah.
parts feel like they're in disarray, when nobody's listening to one another. And as you say, it's making the space to actually connect with them and
Mm,
allow them the space to be there because they
yeah.
are trying to keep you safe, but they are one of your greatest teachers. I absolutely
Mm.
love that.
Yeah. And I mean, I was talking to a colleague the other day and saying how I am very much an internal reflector. So it takes a lot for me to react in the moment to something that's maybe, especially if I'm feeling angry about something or, you know, if it's really bad, I will react in the moment because I'm human. So, you know, but as a rule, I generally will go, okay. And I'm very sometimes quiet and I'm an observer and I observe situations and people and things. And then I will take it away and reflect and then maybe come back with something and people are like, that happened the other day or something. I'm like, yeah, but I needed time to process, to
Hmm.
reflect
Hmm.
because But I've again learned that that's okay. Like that's again, it's a different way of doing it. Some people want you to be, come on, no, give me something, give me a reaction. And people love the drama, and they try and pull that out of you. But if that's not you, that's okay. But I think it's that space actually is what I do is I create that space to just go, what's really happening here? Well, what was
Mm.
that triggering in me? And then I go, okay, that's what it triggered. And that's because of that. So it doesn't need anything else to happen about it. Or it does and it goes, okay, no, that was because actually there's a bit of an injustice here, or actually what they said was just unkind and that's not okay. So you'll come back and sort of deal with it. But I mean, sometimes it's minutes, like, I'm not talking days, but sometimes it can be days if it's a really big thing. And I really don't want to just react in the moment and go, and then I'll feel guilt and then I'll feel shame, So it's learning, it's all learning that we understand ourselves. And the more we can understand ourselves, the easier it is, I think, to navigate life because, if you just don't understand what's going on, it's so hard. If you just feel all
Mhm.
these intense feelings and emotions, and if, especially, like we said, with the shadow stuff, with the parts that are just trying to keep us safe but are so negative and loud that it can feel like we say there's no hope or just like an endless battle in your own mind.
Mhm.
Life's hard enough. You don't want to be with yourself 24/7. The last thing you want to be doing is giving yourself a hard time.
Yeah, everybody else gives you a hard time. Like you really need to make it like a nice place to be
Mm.
within your like mind, your body, your soul. It is literally your temple. It's your
Mm.
vessel for this life. And what came up for me there was just this, as you said, connecting and making the space of like your way and
Mm.
what's right for you. And because whether it's, people want the drama or they want to pull things out of you, or like, especially in today's day and age with like social media, instant messaging, you think you're going to get an instant response or that we always have to have
Yes.
access to people.
Yes.
And it's actually, like you say, creating the space to feel actually what's in congruent with you, like what
Mm.
feels okay and good for you, because we don't always have to be accessible and your way may be different to someone else. Like
Mm.
you said, you may not kind of have to respond in that way. And obviously, of course, you're human, we're bound to. I know
Yeah.
myself, sometimes I'm like, I really should have bit my tongue. Or like my face gives things away. I don't even
Yeah.
have to say anything. Sometimes my face does the talking and then I'm in trouble and I think, oh, my bad.
Yep.
But yeah, learning your way that you
Mm.
don't always have to respond, I think is like a really key element there.
When you've struggled with addiction and used substances for a long time, whether that's alcohol or drugs, obviously that has an impact on your sleep. So when you come off the drugs or come off the alcohol, you have to literally retrain yourself to sleep in a natural circadian rhythm because otherwise, and people think straight away like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't literally forgotten how to naturally fall asleep, but I don't want to take any drugs or anything because I don't want to rely on anything else, a substance. And it is a retraining. It is let's just connect back again to the natural rhythm of sleep and accepting. I mean, one of the biggest things that people can sometimes go, oh yeah, and it changes everything is when you just say, I trust that my body will fall asleep. I trust myself to fall asleep and trusting yourself because it's literally, apart from the severe, very few people who suffer with severe insomnia and illness around sleep, everybody, every human, every animal mostly needs sleep to a point. However much that is a different story. That's very individual. But when it comes to thinking, like you say, getting in that cycle of thought around I can't sleep or I always sleep crap or I never get a good sleep, all those sort of negative phrasing and words that actually create that cycle instead of taking it right back to I trust that I can sleep. I trust that I fall asleep. I trust that my body needs sleep. When it's ready, it will go to sleep. Those sorts of things and those mantras we bring in, and it changes people's like perception of what sleep actually is when you bring it back to not something to be scared of, because that's the other thing is there's a lot of people potentially as well who've in the addiction space who, and not even just in addiction, but in any sort of mental health struggle, trying to fall asleep is like the worst time because that's when your brain goes, ha, now you're not distracted by anything. I'm going to give you all the shit things to think about and all the worries of the world and all these things to just ruminate over and go over. And now you're never going to get to sleep. So, and that's for like majority of people that happens to a point, and then for others, it like takes it to the extreme. So it's then, okay, reframing it as, because that could become quite fearful. So if you're someone who's it really takes them to a dark place, that's a scary time. to think of lying in bed trying to fall asleep. So we have to work with reframing that and building it into a place of safety and a place of trust that it's a safe thing to fall asleep. It's what your body needs to nourish itself, to rejuvenate itself. And it is that's I think what we were talking about when we said that.
Yeah, no, I think you're so right. And I think that was leading me actually onto what I forgot, about practice makes progress. Like I always tell my
Yes.
love bugs, like practice really makes progress. You're never almost going to be perfect or,
Oh, no.
and like, why would you want to be like that
Mm,
nuclear
boring.
family? Yeah, like you were saying, we need, yeah, I give me the color and the
Yeah.
vibrancy. And I actually think that came up for me in a coaching session recently of I was trying to be black and white when really
Mm,
I'm bursting with color. Practice makes progress. If we're training for something, in the gym or like for a marathon, say, you
mm,
intuitively know that this is going to take maybe practice and time and effort. And same with, as you said, about learning to walk or talk. Like I
mm.
know obviously developmentally and things like that, but it just in the sense of like when you were learning to walk, you didn't go out, well, that's it then.
Yeah.
I'll just sit
Can't
here
do it.
forever. Can't do it. Never mind. Like, same with learning to drive. Like, I remember
Yeah.
thinking, I am never going to be safe on the roads. Like, I am never, like, oh my God, what do you mean first, second, third? Like, huh? And now, I mean, you drive somewhere and forget how you've got there
Mm-hmm.
because you've practiced it
Subconscious.
so
Yeah.
much, yeah, that it's become a habit, a pattern. But that
Yeah.
can go positively or as we were
Mm.
saying before, maybe negatively, more unhealthy
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's that as well around the practice bit, particularly with sleep. I think people seem to have a bit of an assumption that if it doesn't happen within like 2 nights or something, oh wow, this doesn't work for me or this isn't right. And because again, down to our technology use, we often now have such a short attention span and we need that dopamine hit. And if we don't get it very quickly, we move on to the next thing that will give it to us rather than putting the time into practicing, like you say, to become a regular part of our routine of our day and become a habit. And when it comes to sleep, it is that, okay, you need to give it at least a month to get
Yeah.
into a full potential sleep cycle routine. It's not a one night, oh, here's this magic thing that now you're going to sleep perfectly. It takes time to reset. It's a rhythm. It's a cyclical rhythm in the body. It
Mm.
it needs time to be reset.
And
So it's
especially if you've been doing it a certain way for so
yeah.
long, or as you say, like sometimes we mask things, whether that's to
Mm,
cope with the shame or the guilt or a scenario or wounding, whether that's an addiction to something, whether even if it's just something as like mainstream as caffeine, cutting that
mm.
out to then being like, oh, I know even for myself working nights, like that changing clock, it's
Mm.
that
Oh, yeah.
retraining yourself because you're like, oh, like I remember I had a house inspection and I had 2 hours sleep and I was like, what on earth is this? Because you have to retrain yourself and it isn't instant, but it's that
Mm.
repetition, it's that
Yeah.
consciously choosing to try
Yes.
again or
Yeah.
to begin again, to choose again, like those people at your retreat. You're never too old to try
Hmm.
something new,
Yeah.
or especially if it's not worked for you so far, the way you're doing it, what the
Yeah.
fuck have you got to lose?
Exactly. I mean, definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah,
You know, it's like
yeah,
it's not going to change unless you change something. And it could
yeah,
be a little thing, it could be a big thing.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, repetition is what our brains love.
Mm,
For safety, to feel safe, the brain likes to know what to expect. So that's why repetition patterns and routines come really into play. But if we tap into the other side of that, that's where change means uncertainty. And we go,
My God, okay,
the
it's
brain freaks
happening.
out and
mm.
has a little like hissy fit because it's like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So let's not do that. Let's
Yeah,
stick
we've
back
not
to
done
our,
this before. We've not been
yeah,
here.
what's the outcome going to be? Let's stick to our safety net of doing the same thing. And let's go back to those
Mm,
old behaviors and old patterns. And that's where it's once you understand that a little bit more, you go, okay, I know what's happening here. This is just going
mm.
back because it's safe and it feels nice and we know what's going to happen. But yeah, in every area of life, that really plays a part, I think, for
And it
everyone.
doesn't care whether it's like a shitty familiar or not, does it?
Oh
Like
no.
it doesn't care if you're, in the pits of like depression or addiction or anxiety, like it
Yeah,
just knows that that's keeping you safe, and it doesn't
exactly.
really want to expand on that what if I don't and what if I do, because it
No.
we almost lean to the negative on the scale, don't we? We don't
Yeah.
really question, but what if it does?
Yeah, my favorite question, one of my favorite questions is that exact question. So when someone's saying, but all the reasons of why not, why not, and you go, but okay, so what if it doesn't work out? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? What if this happens? And you go, okay, but what if it does work out? And then that moment where they can sit and go, I've never thought about that. And most often that is the response because they've never allowed themselves to think of the what if. And that's again, it's not to say that's going to be easy. It's not to say it's going to be simple and straightforward, but just be open to that possibility of what if it does work out? What if you do
Yes.
get that place, that thing, whatever it is that you're looking for? Then yeah, just embrace that feeling and really connect to it. And you can suddenly be like, okay. And then that thought can then grow. And like it's like planting a seed, and plant the seeds and then they start to grow and blossom into more thoughts around that what ifs, but in the positive, because we always do the negative reframe of what ifs, worst case scenario. It's part of our human nature. It was part of our evolution when we were back in caveman days. It's what kept us alive from predators. We have that siren in our head that says, there's danger, threat. But now, because of our over consumption of all the negative things in the world, especially, it's always on a little bit high of red alert. And so we just need to learn to turn it down a bit and tune back into what is a real threat, what is a real danger. And those other things, they're just noise.
Yeah, for sure, because that would have been our caveman days, but we're still getting that same response when it's a shitty email, or,
Mm.
we're getting that when really we felt that adrenaline, that rush when there was actually a saber-toothed tiger there.
Yeah.
But we're,
Yeah.
we're still feeling that anxiety or survival when actually it's like, oh my God,
100%.
unknown caller, who's that? I'm not answering
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
scam.
Exactly. Oh yeah, scab's a whole thing people are fearful of now, but rightly so. But even when it comes back into like for hypnotherapy, when we work with phobias and fears, really understanding that your brain is there to, like you say, keep you safe, to help you survive. And it does that in the weirdest ways sometimes. But what it really does, if you were to look out of your window and see a lion, very unlikely here, but let's just imagine it, let's go with it. And then you'd like freeze, or you'd fight, you'd run, you'd get the hell out there, or you'd maybe stupidly attempt to fight a lion. I don't think many people would go for that option, but it's a possibility. If you've got a weapon or something, maybe you would.
You wanna?
Yeah, but what would happen is that situation would finish. The next day, you'd go to look out your window again, and before you even look out the window, your brain will create that memory, that feeling of there's going to be a lion outside. And then that fear comes in and that builds and grows. And then before you know it, you are isolating yourself at home because you're too fearful to even look out the window in case there's a lion there again from that one experience. And that's where a lot of phobias and fears develop from something. Obviously, very rarely it's because of a lion. But, I just did work with someone who had a phobia of dogs. We had 3 sessions. And because he was coming on the retreat and there were going to be dogs there, that's why we did the sessions. And then I've got the most beautiful photo of him on the sofa with these 2 big, lovely dogs either side of him, his hands on the dogs. And before we worked together, if a dog was walking up towards him on the other side of the street on a lead, he would freeze.
Yeah.
Or if there was a dog in a park, he would literally run out of that park because he was so in fight flight mode when it comes to dogs. So he said, I never thought I'd be able to do this ever. Like he's stroking the dogs, he's cuddling with them, he's getting them to come to him. It was just the most beautiful thing to see. And that's the key for me, is that, and again, all it is working with that subconscious mind, the most beautiful part of our brains. Whether that's like I said, for something specific like a phobia with hypnotherapy, or more broadly going to the deep root of things with intuitive psychology coaching, it all blends into the work that I do. And that's why I just love it, because seeing that, and it's not often you get to see it. It's interesting when you're on the other side as the hypnotherapist, you go out, you do the work, and then you hope they go off and they might tell you and say, yeah, it's worked. I've got on a plane, or I've stopped smoking, or whatever it might be, or I can go to the circus now and not be scared of clowns. That's
Oh
for
God.
me.
Yeah, okay.
My
I'm
phobia of
still
clowns.
scared of clowns, so I'll come to you, Holly.
Yeah. But to see it, to physically see the work in motion and how that has changed someone's life for the better, it was just magical. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but can I please take a picture because I really want to capture this memory? And he's
Yes.
like, yeah, of course. So we did. And
Oh,
that's the stuff. That's the goal. That's, working in that way and understanding how our brains do this stuff and why, and just seeing it all as it's okay. It's our brain. Yeah, it's a bit annoying sometimes. It does things the wrong way around sometimes, makes us forget things sometimes, or it pushes things down. But underneath it all, it's just part of being human, and we can work with it all. We can work with it
mm.
all. There is always a way to help someone find their way.
Yes, and I love that. There's always a way to help someone find their own way for them, what
Yeah.
works
Yeah.
uniquely for you, because
Mm.
we all have our own blueprint, right?
Yeah.
We're all individuals, and I mean, I'm sure in your background as well as mine, like that's what I was always taught. Like each child, each person is an
Mm.
individual, their welfare is paramount. It's different for everybody. And that goes for you too. Just because you've
Yeah.
grown up now, or, it's time to reparent you and look after
Mm.
you. It's time to nurture yourself and take yourself on that journey, because actually you don't have to keep living the life that you've always lived. You don't have to accept the circumstances of where you are.
Mm.
No, you don't have to stay where you are. There is so much more to life, and there's so much more to you.
Mm. Yeah. And it is, it's not about it being, oh, you think it's easy. No, no. It's probably going to be really hard, and
And
it'll
it's
be
going to
really
take
challenging.
practice and
And
time.
time, yeah. But you can. There's always that possibility, that hope, that choice. If you light the way with your torch and show them the way, that's your way, and it only lasts so long. Give them their own torch and they'll find their own way. That's
Yeah, I
it.
love that. I do, because you're so right. It's almost that, is it teach a man to fish?
Mm.
If you keep kind of doing it for others and almost forcing and pushing and almost
Yeah.
dragging this sort of dead body
Mm.
along, people, you have to be ready, but you
Yeah.
always have a choice and you
Yeah.
can choose again. And yes, there will be days where choosing yourself again is going to be really hard, whether that's getting
Mm.
up out of bed or, like you say, sitting in your bed at night going, I'm gonna try again. Like it can
Yeah.
be tricky, but you can do it as long as you choose you each and every
Yeah.
time rather than
Yeah.
that noise.
And I think the thing is as well, we have to accept that there will be people who won't ever get to that place and might not ever want to, and that's okay. Because that's again, it's that acceptance and love and compassion for everyone, that everyone's on their own journey, like we say, and some people will choose differently and others won't. But that's okay. We're not here to judge them. We're not here to push people to do anything. It's just accepting that if there are people who want to and they want support and guidance with it, great. But equally, when we come back to that, like you say, choosing yourself, what often happens, and I think sometimes people aren't ready for, is that that means when you do that work on yourself and you choose yourself and things change, that changes the relationship dynamics for a lot of people in your life. And you will lose people, probably more than likely, who aren't ready to be around you in this new space, who aren't ready to go on their own journey. So they step away or they push you away, or they might throw their negativity to try and bring you back down to where you were and where they are. And it's that being as prepared as you can be, because you never really are. And it sometimes is really hard to keep going and choosing yourself when that's happening. And it
Mm,
could be family, it could be friends, it could be a relationship that then just isn't serving you in that new forward motion that you're going in. And I think that's something to just to help when you've
mm,
got a professional with you supporting you in that. That's that extra layer that is sometimes needed just to say, this is normal. I hate the word normal, but
yeah.
this is expected. Better word.
Mm,
Um, when you're going on that self-development journey, when you're healing, when you're growing, these things that might
mm,
happen, and it's expected and it's okay, because it's not you. You're still doing the right thing. You're taking yourself on that journey. You're choosing yourself, and it's no reflection from what anyone else puts on you. That's not a reflection on you. That's just a reflection on them, and that's okay.
mm.
We can give them their stuff and leave it with them. We're not going to pass judgment. We're not going to drag ourselves back into it. We're just going to say, no, that's yours.
Yeah.
Have it. You have that. I'm doing me.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why working with a coach in particular, or a
Mm.
mentor, or like, a
Yeah.
professional in that space, whoever you feel most aligned with, because that's
Mm.
also important, I think,
Oh,
of
so important.
finding
Yeah.
the professional for you, finding that right professional for you, and it being, just safe to
Yeah.
explore that
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I absolutely have loved this so far. This has been an absolute honor of a conversation. I do have some fun questions for you as
Ah,
well. Drum roll, please. Is if your soul had a drink order, what would it be?
it's really fun. Appetizer is my drink. It is apple juice generally. Anything appley. I like cider too, if I was to have an alcoholic beverage. But apples are just like the appetizer is like
Yes.
my, oh my God. If I'm out and I think, oh, I always look at an appetizer.
Oh,
Oh
I haven't
yes,
had an
please.
appetizer in so long.
So good. So good. That's
Oh,
my
I
it like
love it.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
nothing
zingy.
fancy. Yeah, nothing fancy, just literally fizzy apple.
Love that. No, I think
But
that's you though. Fizzy apple,
yeah.
bit of zing.
Yeah, there you go. So refreshing and yeah, just a nice fresh air.
I love that breath of fresh air, mate. And the other one I have for you is, which I'm a bit dubious to ask you. What's the most unhinged thing you've done in the name of manifestation?
Oh God. Wow, you see, unhinged is a questionable word because I think, for a lot of people it might seem quite a normal thing to do, but for me, it felt like completely unhinged to obviously when we were training and working through our coaching qualification, it was something that I really, really wanted to do was to be friends with like Fern Cotton was one of my people who I wanted to be friends with because I think she's incredible. But Donna Ashworth is someone who I think is just her words are so beautiful and so amazing and connects so many people. And I was like, be friends. I really want her to like me and be part of my world. Or eventing and book signing. So we queued for like, I think it ended up being nearly like 2 hours. It was longer than her show was. So just like get the book signed and stuff. And I remember I planned what I was gonna say. I was like, okay, and I'm gonna say. And then I just went blah, like it said absolute verbal diarrhea. I think I just waffled on so quickly. And I was just like, why am I so like nervous? And she was so lovely. And I was like, okay, I don't think I said anything I needed to. So I sent her like a DM. And I was like, oh my God, but she's like famous. I can't send her a DM. But I did, and I have done as well for quite a few people. So which again, for some people that's quite a normal thing to do. But for me, to sort of reach out and just go, hi, we did meet at this thing and I'm sorry I probably waffled on and said a lot of random stuff that made no sense. I was just really nervous and I really liked your work and blah. And then I think for me, yeah, that was a big thing to do that because it's again out of my comfort zone. And obviously, yeah, when we were at Happy Place, we did Fern's book signing. And I was like, I'm just going to give her my business card and my bracelet. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But I just did. And then I was like, what do you think? Thanks. Who's this? What are you giving me a bracelet for and one for my daughter? Okay. But I was like,
Oh.
no, because they were important. The bracelet said, remember the difference you make or whatever, along those lines. And that was what I wanted to just do they are in regards to manifesting that these people will become part of my life at some point.
No, I love it. And it's already the wheels are in motion because we saw Donna Ashworth as well at Happy
Yeah.
Place and things like that. So like already it's happening and meeting Fern too and almost that verbal diarrhea of Donna, it can be because you're like, I love you. I love you. But as you say, some people might not think it's unhinged, but I do. I think, as you say, to be out of your comfort zone and to be like, I'm going to give her my business card.
Mm,
Fern Cotton, like the Fern Cotton. And I honestly, I
yeah.
think she would have looked, because I think she said about the bracelet for her daughter,
Mm.
didn't she? That's quite cute as well. Like Fern Cotton's like,
Yeah, I can only dream. I can only dream. But I think it is that, like you say, for some people that's quite a regular. I mean, my daughter's a Swiftie, so they take it to a whole other
yeah,
level. And I'm just like in awe of what people like really do for when they like fangirl someone or whatever.
yeah.
But for me, I'm quite a reserved person and I'm quite quiet in many ways. I'm confident and chatty when you know me and when I'm working with you. But in that sort of environment where there is someone who I do really respect and look up to as well, I think, yeah, to just even try and speak to them. Whereas before, I definitely wouldn't have even gone in the book signing queue. I would have just listened and gone. So it felt it felt out of my comfort zone. But where it became unhinged was when I was like, I'm just gonna like message them or give them my business card. It was like, who does this? Lots of people do, Holly. It's okay.
Yes. No, but I honestly, I'm in awe of it. And that's what I love about having these conversations with different people, because it's different for us all. Previously to like intuitive psychology or doing that deep inner work on yourself, as you say, you would have probably listened and then went home and not bothered and then been really pissed off at yourself for ages
Mm,
afterwards that you didn't. Whereas actually from this new space and
yeah.
like of level of creation, because you have done that deep inner work. Yes, it's not been easy, but you've been dedicated. You constantly come back to yourself, creating practices for yourself, and you're seeing the
Mm,
benefit of that now. And it might
yeah.
not be what everyone thinks it should be. It might not be more money, more fame, more this. It can be having a beautiful interaction with someone like that, and
Mm,
like
yeah.
never knowing, like just even pony off that, when we were at Happy Place, we were dancing and all that with the
Mm,
DJ that was there, and there was some fabulous camera crew there. I actually ended up following one of the camera guys on Instagram, just as like I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep up with his stuff, and I saw that
yeah.
he was doing something with Joe Swash, and I was like, oh, he's well fun. Like, I like him. And I just had, but I also had this feeling of like, just you need to follow him. For some reason, you
Mm,
just need to follow him. And I was like, all right, because like this was Happy Place. I was trusting everything, and I was
yeah.
very open to show me exactly what I need. This is why I'm here. Show me.
Yeah.
And from trusting that, I actually ended up reaching out to him later on and thought,
Yeah.
I can't message him on Instagram.
Yeah, I
Same as
know.
you, like, oh no, that's icky. Like, oh no, what's he gonna think? And oh, like, and I just plain and simply, I was like, yo, man, not sure if you remember me. I'm the crazy pink haired lady that was throwing some
Yeah.
questionable shapes at Happy Place. But I actually just saw in one of my group chats, basically, Hannah was like, Megan, like, living your best
It's
life. And I was
you.
like,
Yeah.
it's fucking me at Happy Place. And I thought, screw it, I'm going to message him. And I just asked, I was like, would there be any chance of like getting that footage or like a pic or
Mm,
something? Like, to be honest, and I wore my heart on my sleeve, used my courage, and said, I'm actually trying to show up for myself on social media. I'm trying to really step up for me. And I want to talk about my experience at Happy Place. And he was the most sweetest, genuine character. He
mm,
got back to me and he was like, hey, like, of course I remember you. Like, we loved you there. Like, we were talking about how like happy you were making people just being yourself. And I was like,
yeah.
fuck yeah, because that was what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And now I actually have the footage of me like
Right.
bopping and throwing shapes.
Yeah. And you have that connection, like as in a person who got you and who saw
Yeah,
you and who knows what will ever, if nothing, great, fine. But if something does come from
yes,
that in the future, then amazing. But
yeah,
yeah, it's that like pushing past that ickiness, like you
yeah.
say, of saying, just do it. What's worse is gonna happen,
Yeah, for sure. Because a past me would not have done that. Never
Mm,
mind go to Happy Place or like go by myself and like
yes.
travel and like meet you
Yeah.
guys. So, like, yeah, do the unhinged thing, listeners.
Yes.
Okay. You
Do it.
soulful sinners, do the unhinged thing, because you just don't know where it will take you. And if it doesn't lead to anywhere, it
It's
might just be
okay.
a really fucking cool experience to talk about.
Yeah, hell, I mean, I ended up driving around the race course on a bus being filmed for a music video that time. So that's like, what? Like, it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't sound like I can say, hey, you know, this time I was in a music video. It's like, and I love the fact that when you say that, people think of like some exotic kind of like rolling around in some kind of scene that's all
Like
like,
Peter Andre,
woo,
like
yeah.
mysterious
But
girl.
no, it was in the rain on a bus around Cheltenham Racecourse.
Love a bit like there around the Cheltenham.
Yeah, exactly. But
No, I
it was,
love it.
it's those things, those moments that you can laugh about as well afterwards and just think, oh, that was fun.
Mm. say like for me, when I live like in a little island life, sometimes you forget that there is this big wide world and there are more
Yeah.
people like you. And I think, yeah, that's just why I really want the podcast to be like a collaborative space and get different people and show your skills, because there's enough to go round. Like there's enough for everyone to like
Yes.
find their people. And I
Yeah.
like that this has not been a gatekeeping thing, if that makes sense. Like I like
Mm.
that if I've asked you something, you you don't bullshit me. You just tell me.
But yeah, I think it's exactly that. And it's just about the more things and platforms and ways there are for people to hear about these things. And like we said, in lots of the groups and things, people talking about intuition everywhere now, and really
Mhm.
mainstream conversations are happening
Mm.
about it, which is incredible. But that still won't reach everyone. But whereas someone sat one day scrolling through some podcasts and like, oh, I'm gonna just that looks interesting. Let me
Yeah,
listen to that, and then that
yeah,
hits. It's just
yeah,
another platform, another way of spreading the great work that is out there for people to use.
yeah, for sure. And I'm so excited to hopefully have another conversation with you at some point. Thank you so much. I'll let you go.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I think you are just such a joy to speak to. And I think that's why you bring the best out of any of your guests, because you're just so true, like you said, to yourself. And we can swear and we can say, oh, we fucked it up or whatever. And that's great because that's what your listeners are going to connect with as well. And I think, I think you used the phrase earlier that you were just there, as we're talking about happy place, to spread joy and
Mm.
be yourself, and that's what you are and that's what you do. And I think you achieve that everywhere you go, and whether that's online or in person. So thank you for having me.
Oh God, no, Holly, thanks. Like that, honestly, it means a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to really connect. Like when you were speaking about joy, for example, like I lit
Mm.
up. Yeah, it just really means a lot to connect to that joy and showing others that you can do the same. So I'm really glad that you were able to feel safe and secure to talk about stuff and know that it's okay.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, thank you so much for having
No,
me.
you're welcome. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day, my love.
And you speak soon. Bye.
Bye. What an amazing conversation with Holly Hannigan-Mills from HM Coaching. Isn't she a fucking ray of absolute sunshine? Like she is literally the sun. I love her so much. I feel absolutely privileged that she was able to take some time out of her day to share her wisdom as well as her courageous story, from navigating being a single mum, reconnecting to her joy and releasing shame and guilt, leaving a relationship. And now she's actually married to the love of her life and they have a fabulous life together. And she wouldn't have had that without sometimes experiencing the shadow, the shame, the guilt, and really going on that inner journey. I absolutely have loved talking to Holly today, and I hope to get her on again to share her wisdom. Holly also has two books published, and I'll put the link to those in the show notes. One is Parenting for Teenagers with Autism, and the other is a beautiful book about intuition and science, blending the two together. Holly is an absolute amazing practitioner, and as I said in the show, I will attach all of the relevant links where you can work with Holly or get in contact with her, even access her Flow to Freedom retreat. She is an absolute joy wherever she goes, and I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. And I just really love how Holly's approach to coaching, to her work, her retreats, no matter what it is, she is all in. As you heard, even like yoga, something that she wasn't necessarily trained in or felt able to do, she will always go all in. She will always show up. And that's what makes her a transformational intuitive psychology coach, because she will be in the trenches with you. She will hold your hand and create that safe space for you. So if you do feel called to work with Holly, as I say, I will include all of her bits and pieces in the show notes, from her book to her retreat to free resources and ways that you can work with Holly. If you've enjoyed this episode of Soulful Sips and Spills, please do like, rate, comment, subscribe, all that shenanigans. And do reach out. Let me know in the comments, the DMs, the emails, what you think. What was your biggest takeaway? What did you really enjoy about Holly's conversation? Is there anything you'd like to know more about? Please reach out. I would love to know. This episode has been so much fun. And actually, just a bit of a reminder for myself that actually this is exactly where I'm meant to be. As Holly even described in her own experiences, we can become bogged down by what everyone else is doing or the noise within social media. And really it's practicing that connection with yourself, learning more about yourself, the way you work, why things make you tick. And I understand that sometimes there's sitting in it and there's stewing in it and there's almost my friend said it beautifully. It's like having a really smelly bin and picking through the bin to find out what smells. But there's also that piece I want to touch on upon not bypassing, because we don't have to pick through the bin, but we can just take the bin out and like we can clear it, whether that's through work that I do from emotional clearing and intuitive psychology, getting to that root need, that core root emotion and pruning it, picking it out, clearing that charge, neither positive or negative, and bringing yourself back to that equilibrium, clearing the slate in order for you to admit back. And sometimes that takes time, it takes a process, but it's practicing and it's choosing yourself again. So, just as a reminder to you, my soulful sinners, choose you. Choose you each and every day, even if it looks different, because you are human and not every day is going to look the same. Your thoughts and feelings are going to change, but show up for you. If you blocked out time in your calendar to do certain things, show up for you, even if you're tired or scared or bored or blah, 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 whatever it is. Keep showing up for you each and every day, because you just don't know where that choice may take you. We always think it's going to be the one thing or the step that it is. No, it's a culmination of those little steps of putting one foot in front of the other. You know, as we were saying in the episode, if you were learning to run a marathon or some sort of trek or hike or mountain climb, you wouldn't just turn up in your flip-flops. I mean, if you're my stepdad, you probably would. With his flip-flops on and a carrier bag instead of a suitcase. I mean, come on, man, get it together. You have to choose yourself. You have to choose yourself each and every day. And I hope Holly's conversation really shone a light on that. Things happen. Really bad and difficult things can happen to us, and that can cause us to numb ourselves out in order to not feel any pain. And that doesn't make you a bad person, my darling. It really doesn't. If you have enjoyed this episode of Soulful Sips and Spills, please do reach out. Let me know, whether that's the comments on Spotify or YouTube, whether it's sliding on into my DMs. Send me a voice note like, God, girls, boys, sinners, fucking, we gather at dawn. Let me know what you're feeling. Or is there something you would like me to talk more about? I absolutely love having these conversations, and it's really a big part of my mission. And I'm very passionate about using this space as a platform to connect people, really, to connect you.